right, welcome to Gunflix and Chill with We Like Shooting Episode 4. This week we watched the Jason Statham movie Crank. And yeah, I felt like I did some Crank after that, so that was kind of weird. I think this one was a kind of weird one. We did Shoot 'em Up. Is that Shoot 'em Up?
Yeah, Shoot 'em Up.
We did Shoot 'em Up. Last Boy Scout Nick just told me a couple minutes ago. And this is another one of those movies. We've been kind of doing a thing where we play the trailer. And let me just find that real quick. There it is. Let me go full screen. Let me share my screen. Jason Statham. I actually like Jason Statham movies quite a bit.
Yeah, some of them.
I think they're really enjoyable. Let me see if I can actually get this to work. And here is the trailer for the movie Crank, 2006.
My name is Chev Chelios, and today's the day that I die. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I've been poisoned with some kind of Chinese synthetic. You gotta do something for me, Doc.
They gave you the Beijing cocktail. It's cutting off your adrenaline. If you stop, you die.
Now, I've got 1 hour to settle a score. Say goodbye to my girl, and go out with a little style. All I have to do is stay alive long enough to make it happen. Juice me.
Clear?
Where's Baron?
I don't know where he is.
You're so stressed out. What's the matter?
I need to tell you something. I'm a professional hitman.
If you're gonna break up with me, at least you can tell me the truth.
Wait! Now, come on.
You're supposed to be dead.
Your whole crew is history.
The unidentified man behind today's mayhem is making his last stand.
My name is Chev Chelios, and today's the day.
All right, that is the trailer for Crank, starring Jason Statham. Came out in 2006.
God, that name.
Chev Chelios.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to get rid of the trailer here. Okay. Nick, why don't you start us off?
So this movie does not around with an intro at all.
No.
Like the movie opens and you're just right there in it. So he wakes up in his apartment. There's a recording that says "Play Me" or something on it, right?
Yeah.
He pops it in, and it is a videotape from the night before where he's learning that he's been injected with some sort of poison and he's gonna die.
Chinese synthetic.
Yeah. So, yeah, it literally just goes directly into it. Apparently, he was poisoned as revenge because he's a hitman and he killed Don Kim, which could both be the guy's name or it could be his title. I assume it's supposed to be his title, but I like to imagine that the guy's name is Donald Kim and they just call him Don.
Yeah, which is weird because they call him Chinese throughout the entire movie, but every single reference in the fucking movie is Korean.
Yeah.
Like, what? It was weird.
I did put a note in here that he has the worst shirt ever.
Oh, yeah, that was a pretty bad shirt.
That was a pretty terrible shirt. He has approximately an hour before he's going to die.
Well, it would have been an hour, but...
Well, that's what he's told at this point.
Yeah. So the guy's like basically mocking him. And then he realizes like pretty quickly that the dude recorded that in his apartment or house or condo or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They knocked him out with a fucking baseball bat and then mock him about it and then inject him with that while he's laying face down on his bed. But I feel like it would just be easier to shoot him.
I know. That's one thing through the whole movie. I was like, why didn't they just kill him?
Yeah.
So he runs out and gets in his car and starts panicking and he's trying to make a bunch of phone calls. He's trying to get a hold of his doctor. He tries to call his girlfriend, who has the most obnoxious voicemail ever. It's like a 16-minute long recorded message.
Yeah.
And then he finally gets a hold of Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite.
Dude, okay, yes. So
Wait, hang on. You missed the part where he drives over his neighbor.
Wait.
When he pulls the car, when he's pulling the car out, don't. He drives over his neighbor.
I apparently totally missed that.
I must have missed that completely
Actually,
as well.
it didn't show it, so I had to go back again just to make sure I saw what I saw. Yeah, he drives over his neighbor.
Oh, wow.
So his neighbor's just like laying in the street dead?
They don't even show that. They just, the concept of him driving over was the car.
Yeah, so I think we said it, but yeah, so they inject him with a drug that basically inhibits the flow of adrenaline, slows his heart, and eventually kill him, so he has to keep his adrenaline pumping like the entire... It's like Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
Sort of.
Or, I'm sorry, it wasn't Keanu Reeves, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the first one was.
Yeah, except they have to keep the bus over 55 miles an hour or whatever.
And the second one, it was Keanu Reeves still.
No.
It
On
was
the boat?
It was that other dude.
It was, the guy from Lost Boys, I think.
Wait, it wasn't Keanu Reeves on the ship?
No.
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 Wow.
No,
Okay.
it was that other dude. Okay, so back to Pedro.
Yeah.
So I'm all trying to vote for Pedro, and I was like, holy. So basically, he plays like a cross-dressing like gay dude in this movie in his very bit part, and I was like, holy. This was the movie that led him to Napoleon Dynamite. Like this was his like little bit part that he got cast in Napoleon Dynamite, and everything's fucking cool. And then I looked up the dates and I was like, nope, this was his follow up to Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, I was gonna say I thought Napoleon Dynamite was first.
Yeah, Napoleon Dynamite 2004, Crank 2006. So he was like,
this is why we don't see him in anything ever again.
yeah. I was like, he followed that. I was like, he followed this up with Napoleon Dynamite. That's so awesome. No, he is working at Kmart now.
And his depiction is like. This is one of several things that we were talking about earlier that would not fly if this movie was made today, only 13 years later, because his depiction is like one of the most, well, I wouldn't say one of the most offensive, but it is definitely like unoffensive depiction of a gay man, because he's like really prissy and useless and is just there to like be pointed at and laughed at, you know?
It's all true.
So he ends up going and meeting up with a guy named Orlando, who's in a bar. He takes Orlando into the bathroom and pulls out.
It's a black biker bar.
Yeah, he pulls an XD9 on the guy, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Jeremy, would you like to speak to that?
No. I didn't hear what you were saying.
He it's an XD9. He carries through the whole movie an XD9.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and when he, like moments later,
Well, it's 2006. Is it an HS 2000?
no, I'm pretty sure it's an actual XD9.
It is literally a Springfield Armory XD chambered in 9mm. It's the just the XD9. This is before Grip Zone, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Well, it's the first gen.
So a bunch of guys burst in, and this is where we see a lot of the guns for the first time in the movie, although none of them get used, unfortunately.
I know.
It's mostly Desert Eagles, Glocks, some Berettas, and there's a 500 Smith & Wesson snub nose in there.
Yes,
That actually pops up later in the movie, but in someone else's hands.
it is. It is pretty badass. And I'm starting to notice now that we're doing this show. I'm starting to notice some real recurring guns.
Yeah.
Desert Eagle, the SIG P226, I believe. Is that the one that was in this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of SIGs, lots
Yeah.
of Glocks.
And Berettas.
And Berettas, yeah. There's not as many Glocks in all these movies as I would expect there to be. Like, there's some Glocks in all the movies, but really I'm seeing lots of SIGs, lots of Desert Eagle, what is it, Magnum Research?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, just out of curiosity, after you made the HS 2000 comment, I looked it up. The XD was started being imported under the XD name in 2002.
So,
Okay.
So it was pretty new at this time. Like that might be
Yeah.
one of the reasons why it's featured so heavily.
4 years old.
Yeah. So at this point, he doesn't exactly know the rules for the whole adrenaline thing, but he's like, I need some cocaine or some coke, and the guy's like, okay, how much money you got on you? And he gives him money, and then he's like trying to get the bag open, and he ends up ripping it, and it falls on the bathroom floor, and he gets down on his hands and knees and starts like taking little pinches of cocaine off the floor and shoving them in his nose.
Yes.
Which was pretty nasty. I'd be like, hey man, you got another?
I love that he's like, white dude in here raising a ruckus.
Yeah. And then he gets up and says, okay, I wrote this down. He's like, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. And the Orlando guy's like, what's that? And he's like, kick some black ass. And I was like, I don't, is that okay? Can you say that?
I don't think that's okay.
2006, you could.
So he headbutts one of the dudes in the face and starts a brawl that rapidly he's like instantly out in the streets, gets in the car and drives away. A lot of the fights in this are like that. And a lot of the action scenes.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like there was a lot of this movie that's him running around talking on the phone between the action, but then you get to the action and you're like, yeah, but it's so brief.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to him talking on the phone again.
So I've seen this movie a couple times, and today was the first time I ever watched it with any kind of critical eye. And every other time I was like, wow, that was action-packed. And today when I watched it, I was like...
Yeah. I expected it to be more like Shoot 'em Up, where it was just constant. But it is a lot of him running around doing stuff. Yeah. A lot of the shots are really weird too, like a lot of the angles, and there's lots of like the rapid zoom in and out and like shifting up from a strange angle at people. Yeah,
that was a little weird. So this movie actually came out, and though they never said it, and at this point, as far as I'm aware, have never admitted it, it was absolutely influenced by the filmmaking style of Run, Lola, Run, which I don't know. Have you guys seen that one?
I have seen it, and that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's like... Honestly, so you know the Bourne Identity movies, like that real in close, just like frenetic fighting style and everything. Like this is one of the first movies that really had that. Like they were like, you know what, Steadicam, that gimbal, that. Let's basically film this as if our cameramen are literally doing crystal meth.
They have Parkinson's.
Oh.
This film was entirely shot by Michael J. Fox.
I was just going to say that.
He didn't have Parkinson's in 2006.
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah.
Maybe.
He did.
Yeah, so he goes back out to the car, and this is something I thought was really odd. Like maybe the bikers in the biker bar like called the cops on him or something, but he gets in the car and he calls his doctor and finally gets a hold of his doctor, and then all of a sudden he has 4 cops chasing him. But there's no like they're just suddenly yelling at him through the megaphone. There's no like he's speeding. So they see him and get on him.
Yeah.
Like it just suddenly there are a bunch of cops behind him. So he is talking to his doctor and finds out that, you know, he got this Beijing cocktail.
His doctor, by the way, when they first introduce him, is like getting spanked by and
yeah.
He's like, I don't think he's really a doctor.
I don't know. He's like, maybe he was a veterinarian or something.
Yeah, right.
And, later,
wait. Are you saying doctors can't be spanked by?
Well, later when he goes to his office, it's not like a legit office.
It's like his bedroom.
Yeah, it's like a room in his house. So it seems more like this is the doctor that he uses for his hitman stuff when he can't go to an actual doctor.
Can I say that my favorite part of this movie is the fact that Dwight Yoakam is the doctor?
Yeah.
Wait.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Dwight Yoakam, the country singer, is the doctor.
Hold on. I actually did not realize that until you just said that. And then
really?
Yeah, it was just like The Sixth Sense. He's like, I see dead people. I just had that exact same moment. Holy yes, it is. What the I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he had a little foray into acting there for a little bit.
You just M. Night Shyamalan'd me.
Shyamalama Ding Dong?
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of like how, Chris Christopherson is in the Blade movies.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is one of the last places I'd expect to see him.
Except he's so good in them.
Yeah, so at this point, he leads the cops on a chase scene through a shopping mall.
Oh, yeah. And he's on the phone. And
he's just very casual.
Yeah, he's like, what are you doing? He's like, driving through a shopping mall with the cops chasing me.
Yeah, and this is another scene. Like, we've seen chase scenes through shopping malls in other movies. It could have been so awesome, but it was just sort of okay, I thought.
Yeah. It's kind of like everything in this movie. It was just like,
Yeah.
It's one of those movies you turn your brain off.
It's like it's a good background movie.
I just wish that the directors, producers, and actors hadn't turned theirs off too.
Oh, snap!
So he drives through the shopping mall. This is where he finds out the rule, like if he stops, he dies. He needs to keep his adrenaline up. The doctor tells him to do a bunch of different drugs,
including epinephrine.
So here's the really weird part, or something I thought was really weird. Apparently, no one in this movie has ever heard of an EpiPen.
Yes.
Because he kept telling him, like, epinephrine, get an EpiPen. And he's like, oh, what? And then, like, every time it's mentioned to almost every other character, they're like, oh, what?
Yeah, everyone's just so confused the whole time. I want to pause right here because we skipped over one of my favorite scenes that I even took a note on. He steals a cab.
Oh, that's not yet.
Okay. I'll leave it then.
That is shortly later.
Okay.
Yeah, so he runs through the mall, loses the cops. He ends up crashing his car into the escalators, which is like a really cheesy CG of his car flipping over.
Really bad.
Let's see here. Oh, yeah, and the doctor, like, instantly knows what's wrong with him.
Oh, yeah, it was so weird. I was like, well, that's cool that he's got this crazy Chinese synthetic drug in him that...
Yeah. He's like, what are your symptoms? And he's like, my heart's pounding and my vision's blurry and I have a headache and I'm having a hard time breathing. And he's like, I know exactly what it was.
It's Chinesium. I knew it.
Yep.
Did you call it Chinesium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
So he runs through the mall, jumps in a taxi, and he's like having a hard... The music is on point in this movie, I will say.
It is.
They did an excellent job with the music. So he gets in the back of the cab and he's like grabbing his chest and he's having a hard time. And he tells the taxi driver to change the music and he changes it to Achy Breaky Heart. I was amused by.
All true.
Oh man, let's see here. He goes into a gas station, and this part throughout this movie, he's kind of a for no reason.
A lot.
He walks into the gas station, pulls out his gun, puts it in the poor clerk's face, then grabs the clerk, pulls him over the counter, and slams him into the ground. Then he like says something about like don't get up, and he goes over and gets a garbage bag and steals like all of the caffeine he can find, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like. He could have just walked in and like started stealing or just like walked in and been like, hey, but he had to like also assault the guy, which it seemed kind of unnecessary.
It was really a move.
Yeah. Why has he got to be so mean? Also, we've seen him pull out like massive wads of cash. So maybe he should have just like thrown $100 on the counter because clearly he has it.
Yeah.
And then just grabbed what he wanted and left.
I mean, he's a hitman. Like,
yeah,
he's got the cash.
You got to get your adrenaline up.
I guess, yeah.
But apparently he needs everyone else's adrenaline up around him.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
He's like, my adrenaline spikes when I demean and belittle other people.
It doesn't?
No, it does. That's why I do it to Aaron all the time.
So
I'm a junkie.
He goes back out in the cab and we cut to Carlito's place. And Carlito's like the main bad guy. Not like the main... antagonist, but he's like the head bad guy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's like the Don of the city.
Yeah, sort of. He's like the leader of whatever gang.
Yeah, is he the one on the roof? No.
Yeah, he is.
He is. Okay.
Yeah, and he's got like tons of topless women around him. I just wrote lots of in my notes.
But they weren't even like good.
Just
you know what? Off.
They weren't bad.
All are good.
No.
Yeah, I will disagree with that statement as well.
Yeah,
I will say these weren't bad.
I mean, they were actually
Hollywood. They gotta be.
They were 90s in 2006. You know?
I mean, I wasn't like bummed to see them.
Tastes have changed since then.
And Carlito is swimming in the pool, and he's surrounded. Like they do a good like establishment or establishing shot of this rooftop scene. There are tons of armed guards everywhere, and they spend lots of time like focusing on the guns and letting us know that there are all these hardcore armed guys. And then all of a sudden, Jason Statham is like standing above the pool, and no one saw him, and no one knows how he got there.
It's
like,
all very confusing.
He's just suddenly there, like a ghost. Like this guy has superpowers, sort of like in the movie Shooter. He can teleport.
Yeah,
like Nightcrawler. He just suddenly appears.
He's a shadow.
Yeah, so he finds out that because he killed Don Kim, the night before, and the
Which
Chinese
is not a Chinese name.
the Chinese have brought down a lot more heat than they expected. So Carlito went ahead and gave him to the Chinese as payback, which I thought was interesting because it literally happened the night before that he killed this guy, and like already they've gotten way more heat than they thought.
So here's what I don't get is I thought for the most part of the movie that the guy who was trying to kill him from the beginning that injected him with the poison was Hispanic.
Wait, is he not?
I thought he was part of the Chinese group. He's not part of the Chinese group.
No, he's not.
He's not.
Oh, see, I was so thrown by that. I was like, wait, he's not. That's like the worst Chinese accent I ever heard. It sounds like sounds Latino.
No, he works for not Don Kim, but Carlito.
Right.
And he's like, "Hey, you're like pussy."
Yeah, so he finds out that Carlito sold him out, and he decides it's not worth it to do anything because there's so many armed guards. And this is where Sean's favorite part was.
Yeah, so this was the most I've seen in the whole movie, and it's like so quick you almost wouldn't even notice it. But I was just dude, yes,
This is like top 2-3.
dude.
There's some up stuff. in this
Okay,
movie.
so he walks out and he's soaking wet because he was like killing people in the pool or whatever.
Yeah.
And the cab driver gets out. I think he had like a turban on of some sort.
Yeah.
Or a head wrap of some sort. And he's clearly supposed to be Middle Eastern descent. And he's like, "No, you don't get in my cab wet." And he's like, "I'll give you $200. And he's like, "No, you don't get in my cab wet." So Jason Statham walks over to him and he's like, "Fine, I'll take your cab." Throws this dude on the ground and like points at him. He's like, Al Qaeda. And then just like random civilians like start rolling up to this dude, like just beating his ass. Like the
Bones breaking.
Yeah, you hear bones, but they're not just civilians. They are old women.
Yeah, like Leave It to Beaver's mom from Airplane the movie. She's like, "I talk jive and also snap necks and cash checks."
Yeah, it shows like his knee bending backwards and stuff.
It's all,
and it's like 7 old women beating him.
yeah, just like random.
Can we just say how great that scene was in Airplane?
Dude, yes,
It is pretty good. Yeah.
Jive Turkey don't want no help. Jive Turkey don't get no help.
exactly. Dude, I was just like, that is so up. And this is 2006. I was like,
Well, yeah, that was okay
Yeah.
back then. We still hated the entire country hated Muslims at that point.
They were
my
like, we have
gosh.
to make people hate Middle Easterns so we can invade Iraq.
Well, we were already there.
Right, but like that was still fresh.
oh man,
Yeah,
it was.
yeah, it still stung.
It was.
That wound was open. It's not just a scar that itches.
Oh man, it was. I was like, that's up. I mean, I loved it. Loved every second of it. Enjoyed it. Watched it like 2 or 3 times, but it was up.
So, let's see. So this is where Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite calls him while he's driving in the cab. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm getting some tacos, and I saw one of the bad guys across the street." And he's like, "Where are you? I'm coming to where you are." And then it shows a really weird little like 60-second montage of Pedro eating tacos. But he's like dancing while he's eating them. He's eating them in a very strange fashion.
Well, when they introduce him as a character, they immediately flash to him dressing up like cross-dressing and then dancing in a gay club.
This is true.
And then they do the exact same thing with tacos, and they just make it weird as.
Yeah, and I wrote like, who the eats taco? Like, it's very strange. Like, not only they're like, this guy is socially awkward as. Yeah, maybe he's on drugs. I don't know.
Yeah,
Usually when I see people just dancing like that, they're on drugs.
I guess. Yeah.
Like no music, no nothing. They're just like on the side of the road dancing, you know?
It's just weird, man.
Yeah, so he goes to this restaurant, finds this guy, and they end up out in the alley, and the guy pulls out a Desert Eagle, and that's when he gets his hand cut off because Jason Statham has retrieved a cleaver.
Yes, and this is like the Mark V, the Desert Eagle Mark V, I believe.
You know, I don't know the marks.
So the first one that he uses earlier is the Mark I. I'm sorry, it's the Mark VII is the second one. So the first one is the Mark I in 357 Magnum that he uses. Wait, is that one? Hold on, I'm just looking real quick because there are 2 different ones, and he uses them both at different times.
Oh, I hope Jeremy gets back soon.
Several of the gangsters in the club draw Desert Eagles. Is that when he's in the club that he chops the hand off?
No.
Okay, so He uses the Mark 7 in the club, and then the one that we're talking about right now is the Mark 1, and they're both in 357 Magnum. So nickel-plated Desert Eagle, Mark 1 and 7, both in 357 Mag.
So yeah, he cuts the dude's hand off that's holding the Desert Eagle, and then looks at the guy and says, "How freaking awesome was that?"
It's pretty cool.
Which I thought was funny because one, just the line was funny, and two, it's a hard R. Like the movie is a very hard R, but they had him say "freaking" instead of. So I wonder if like they wanted to use that in the trailer or something. So they were like, "Hey, can you just tone this one back so that we can?"
Probably.
But it still made me laugh. And the guy, despite missing a hand, just beats the shit out of him because he's this huge dude. Just beats the shit out of him in the alleyway. And Jason Statham pulls out his trusty XD and pulls the trigger, and nothing happens. And this is why I was hoping Jeremy would be back here.
So
Right.
if it would have had the grip zone, it probably would have worked.
So yeah, just like nothing happens. Pedro comes up and hits the dude with a rolling pin, which only makes the guy angry.
I'm like, where the fuck did you get a rolling pin?
From the kitchen that they just ran through.
It's just weird.
So then Pedro immediately like cowers and runs away from this guy and is like hiding in the corner. So he grabs the Desert Eagle with the severed hand still attached, kind of like in Shoot 'Em Up. And he goes over and he shoots the dude in the back of the head, and then like peels the hand off. And I wrote this down because he had a pretty good. He turns to Pedro, and he says, "Do you want to hold hands?" And then throws the hand to him, which also gave me kind of a chuckle. I do like the one-liners.
There's a lot of them, which actually brings me to one of the points is Statham. Basically, he didn't want to play this part, and he was like, "Well, I don't think that I'm funny." And they were like, "Oh no, don't worry, just play it exactly how you would play it, just straight, and let our writing be funny." Which I'm like, I mean, it is kind of weird because Statham is like all the movies he's in, he basically plays like. I recall him being like a pretty humorous dude.
Yeah, like,
but it's always the writing and never him.
Oh yeah.
If you think about it,
I think about it all the time.
Yeah,
you know, Jason Statham has had a really interesting career. Like
you still have to be able to deliver lines in a funny way, even if the writers are funny.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Statham just plays like the straight man, though, and I think that is what makes a lot of the lines funny, is because he just says them.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's had a pretty interesting career. Like he was an Olympic diver. I can't. There's that music video that has him dancing around greased up in a thong.
What?
Have you guys seen that? He's
No.
wearing like a Speedo, and it's just like him in the background, but sometimes there are like 7 of them filling up the entire screen, and he's just like wearing a Speedo, greased up, dancing. Yeah, he was a dancer for a while, I guess. Yeah, he's had a pretty interesting career, and now he's a tough guy in movies.
yeah. So I will also say one of the things I noticed in this movie, he uses that XD9 like the whole movie. Like he has that gun with him a lot. It is used a lot in the movie. Like it's his carry gun.
He loses it there, and for a lot of the movie, he doesn't have it, and then at the end, he comes back and he does.
Yeah, it comes back with it.
Yeah.
But I was just looking at all the scenes that had that gun in it, and it's quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. Which is funny, because after it fails him the first time, you know, you think he'd learn, but...
Yeah. Who knows? Some people just carry XDs because of the grip zone.
Yeah, so this guy that he just killed is apparently the brother, right, of the guy that injected him.
Was that the dude on the roof?
No, the guy that he shoots in the alleyway.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And cuts his hand off and says that was freaking awesome. Yeah, so this was another thing that really confused me in the movie. So he calls up the guy that injected him to taunt him about having just killed the guy's brother.
Yeah.
And as he's talking to him, he reaches over and grabs a necklace that the guy's wearing, and it's like a gold chain with one of those little like Catholic saint pendant things on it. And he says the line, and I quote, "What's this, a necklace? You guys really are." Which also, you know, might not fly in a movie these days. But he is also wearing a gold chain necklace. Like at the same time.
I was going to say that too. Like he was wearing a necklace the entire movie.
Yeah. So that seems, I don't know, it was like rude. He's just being kind of a
I agree.
I mean, I guess there's no real way to like taunt someone because you just murdered their brother.
So he lays on the gayness of him pretty hard throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, he really does.
What you do is you're like, if you just killed somebody's brother, be like, hey, what do your brother and Jeffrey Epstein have in common? They both got murdered.
They didn't kill themselves. So finally he goes to a hospital. He goes into the pharmacy and he's like, I need this drug. It starts with an E. And they're like, oh, okay. And he's like, it's I can't remember. Yeah. And she's like, somehow
England.
Figures out.
She says, England?
Yeah, if somehow he figures out it's epinephrine. And he's like, epinephrine. And she's like, yeah, hold on just a minute. And she goes in the back and calls the cops. And while he's standing there, some junkie next to him is like, hey, the nasal spray on the counter here has a bunch of epinephrine in it. He's like, you'll have to do a lot, but it'll get you high. So he takes all of it and runs. And immediately there are cops there again chasing him. So he goes and he hides in a dude's room and has like an awkwardly tender moment with a guy who appears to be in a coma. He goes and like sits down next to the guy and like looks at him for a while. Anyway, he ends up changing into one of the hospital nightgowns, which led to some of my favorite parts of the movie because it was hilarious to me. So yeah, he gets in the nightgown, like snorts a bunch of the epinephrine, shoves the Desert Eagle up under his arm, and then goes back out into the hall to try and run from the cops. But they immediately spot him and chase him because he's got a big silver
right.
Desert Eagle under his arm, like tucked into his armpit. So he runs from him, holds him off for a little bit. He ends up finding some guys with a crash cart, and one of them is Dennis.
Yeah, from Always Sunny.
Yeah, so he's like, give me the epinephrine. And Dennis is like digging through trying to find the epinephrine while he's shooting at the cops. And finally he gets it, and it's just like this big needle full of epinephrine. And apparently he decides that's not enough. He needs to be shocked with the defibrillator.
Yes. Yeah, which is really weird. He's like, shock me. And the dude's like, what? And there's the cops like just 10 feet away down the hall. It's like a whole thing. I didn't understand any of that, really.
Yeah. So Dennis hits him with the paddles, and he flies like 7 feet backwards into an elevator, and rides the elevator down. And while he's riding down, he injects himself with the entire needle full of epinephrine.
He also never shoots the cops. He shoots at the cops.
Oh, yeah, he
and when
shoots
he
around.
gets knocked back into the elevator, when the paddles knock him back like 10 feet directly into the wall. And then they start to come around the corner because they're like, oh, he's out. But no, he's still there with the Desert Eagle and still shoots at them, but doesn't shoot them.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that when he pulled the trigger at the cops, because they're shooting blanks, the Desert Eagle?
Yeah, I did catch that. It
cycled.
jammed. And then he stands up, and literally in the next shot, it's fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also when he gets hit with the paddles, he's got the muzzle of the Desert Eagle pressed against the guy's chest, against Dennis's chest, and his finger is on the trigger. And it would have been awesome if the guy shocked him and he just like blew a big hole through the guy's chest.
Right.
I imagine. I imagine it's sort of similar to being tased, right? Like you get tased, your muscles tighten up.
Probably. Yeah.
I would not be shocked if someone tightened up and pulled the trigger. Yeah, so he shoots this entire thing of epinephrine right into himself, and it cuts to him running down the street in the hospital gown at like 25 miles an hour. And it was one of the most amusing parts of the movie to me because it was like watching a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
Yeah,
he's just like, meow.
Like he's just hauling ass, wearing a hospital gown, ass hanging out to the wind, bare feet, just running down the goddamn pavement like 100 miles an hour.
I really wish they'd put in like a meep meep as he went by. He's running along. He gets a call from his doctor, and the doc, he's like, I found the stuff you said to take, and he's like, the doctor's like, oh, how much did you take? And he's like, all of it. And he's like, no, you were only supposed to take a little bit. And he's like, do you feel like you're, goes through this list of symptoms, and he's like, do you have a raging heart on? And he looks down and he's like, yep. And he runs up. This was the part of the movie that I laughed the hardest at. Like I literally out loud, like let out a pretty good chuckle. He runs up, and there are all these people gathered around a shop window that has a bunch of TVs in it. And they're showing footage on the news of all of the carnage that he's left behind him so far. And they show this really cartoony sketch that vaguely looks like him as the suspect. And the guy that's standing next to him, like, slowly turns his head, and Jason Statham slowly turns his head, and they make eye contact. And then the guy slowly looks down and sees his and his head like snaps forward. And okay, Aaron, in the last show you asked what a stupid fear we have is that everyone else would laugh at. My stupid fear is meeting Jason Statham on a sidewalk with him wearing nothing but a hospital gown and having a huge and glaring me down like he was glaring that guy down. That would terrify me.
It really would.
That's my biggest stupid
anyone
fear.
in a hospital gown with a giant staring at you staring at me would just be like my biggest fear.
Honestly, I don't want anyone.
I know what I'm doing for Halloween next year.
And by Halloween, he means June.
Oh, my birthday.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want anyone with any kind of in any kind of clothing looking at me. If that's all right.
I'm gonna get a hospital gown, pop like 6 Viagra, and just show up at Aaron's house.
You would, wouldn't you?
You're just gonna eat a 1 pound Viagra.
Just breaking off bites.
Yeah. What are you eating? You. No, literally. I'm about to.
So he goes over and steals a cop's gun, taunts the dude.
Yeah. And he taunts him with, which gun is that? I think it's the Beretta. Yeah.
92. Yeah, he taunts him for a little bit, and then he like throws it away, and the cop runs off to chase it, and he gets on his bike, starts to drive away on the bike, and the cop comes over and grabs it, and he drags the cop down the street for a little ways.
I didn't know cop boots had metal on them, because they were when he was riding behind the cop, or the cop's riding behind him, his shoes are actually sparking.
Yeah, well
he was wearing tap shoes. It's like when you gotta serve and protect, but later you're about to do river dance.
But tap his life.
Yeah. And that Beretta is actually an airsoft gun. It has KWC logo on the grips.
Oh, nice.
So it's airsoft.
Is that the one from the poster that we saw the other day?
Oh, dude,
in one of the posters, it's a photo of him standing, pointing the gun at the camera, and it is very obviously an airsoft gun.
Clearly.
You know, it's got like the little barrel inset inside the plastic. Yeah, so he drives off on the bike and he starts to fall asleep. So he hops up on the seat and does some bike stunts, which end with him crashing into a cafe.
Oh, when you say bike stunts, you mean him standing like Jesus on the cross on the bike seat, like driving down the road with his eyes closed, just like daydreaming and imagining.
I mean, that is definitely a stunt.
It really is, but like when you say stunt, you're like, oh, he's doing wheelies and like, like Supermans and no. He like just steps up on the seat, puts his arms out in the cross, and closes his eyes and just starts to daydream.
I mean, he has like a weird flashback to a child in a car that's never explained. I don't know if it's supposed to be him, or what.
Yeah, I don't think Crank is the name of the movie. I think Crank is literally what everyone did for 6 months before they filmed.
Yeah, they had a $12 million budget for this.
What?
Yeah, think about all the money we could get for our dumb ideas.
Yeah, we just need, I don't know, man.
So, he crashes into this cafe, injures some poor person who is just there eating lunch.
Yeah, just like sitting.
Yeah, and he gets up and like runs away and gets on the bike and keeps driving, and the person is like laying on the ground and someone's trying to revive them. Yeah, he's a bad person. He's a really bad person. All these innocent people that he just hurts for no reason. And at this point, he's made several phone calls. He's still wearing the hospital gown, but I was really relieved because he gets a phone call from his girlfriend at this point, and we see where he was keeping the cell phone, which is in his sock. He had it tucked into his sock. But at several points, I was like, wait, where is the cell phone coming from? Where is it? Where? Yeah. Kind of concerned about that one. So when it showed him pull it out of his sock, I was like,
thank God.
Whew. Yeah, so his girlfriend basically just like doesn't give a
she's kind of dumb as
yeah, I can't stand her.
Well, she's cute, but she's dumb as
he goes over to her house and he's like, we got to leave. We got to go. And she's like, can you help me program the clock on my microwave?
Right. Cause she's trying to make him waffles in the microwave or some, cause he's like, I
don't know.
One of them says something about waffles and then it shows the microwave looking out at her face, just like beep, beep, like,
no, what's going on? I'm so stupid.
But she also has the waffle iron heated up because he goes in and puts his hand in it and just waffles his hand.
Yeah. I was just like, what are you doing with the microwave lady?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest.
It was on daylight savings time. Come on, she explained it.
I kind of zoned out a little bit through part of it, like a lot of the stuff with the girlfriend, because she just really irritated me.
It's understandable, Nick.
Yeah, she bothered me.
So if she would have died, I would not have.
Yeah,
I would not have cared.
I would have been fine with it. I would have been like, good, no more of her.
Right.
So he takes her to lunch.
Well, wait a minute.
And as they're walking out,
she
gets a phone call. So she goes back in, and he's like, oh, because he knows, because he has superhuman powers. So he runs out front, and there's a hitman talking on the phone.
Before we even do this, so she's like, hey, can you set my microwave clock or whatever? And he goes in, and he sees the waffle iron heated up. And apparently at this point, he's like, I need to get my adrenaline running. Let me put my hand in the waffle iron for 7 seconds.
God, yeah.
Like, what the f***? And so he like puts his hand in the waffle iron, burns the out of himself.
And why was the waffle iron sparking?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I mean,
like this is
that's
so
really terrible waffle iron.
Unsafe. Yeah.
Yeah. You put anything in there, it sparks?
Yeah, she's super cute, but she's vapid, I think is the best word. Vapid, whatever. So anyway, he finally phone call, she goes back in the apartment. He's trying to get her out of there because he knows the hitmen are about to get there.
So he runs out front, just smashes the dude's head into the payphone, and then comes running back just as she's getting to the door. And she's like, there was nobody there. So he's like, my car's parked out back. And they go out back, and another hitman comes with a silenced pistol, and he fights the dude and ends up killing him.
He dumps her purse out so she doesn't know.
Oh, yeah. He flips her purse over, and he's like, oh, no, I'm so sorry. And as she's picking it up,
she doesn't know that he's a hitman.
Right. So he goes over and fights this dude who had a suppressed Glock.
It is a Glock, yeah. It's a round suppressor on a Glock.
So he fights this dude, ends up killing him, throws him in the swimming pool, and then comes back over and helps her finish picking up her purse. And she's like, where's your car? And he's like, you know what? I actually don't have it.
I took a cab.
Yeah.
From Al-Qaeda.
So then it cuts to the police bike sitting on the corner of a street, bursting into flames with a bunch of people standing around it.
So everything he touches either sparks or catches on fire or explodes. I don't understand this.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got like the Tesla touch.
So they go to what apparently is supposed to be Chinatown. But Sean, you said everything was Korean. Yeah,
like the people they interview, and we'll talk about it in a couple seconds. But they're Korean. The name Kim is Korean. So yeah, and it's even they really allude to it, like actually in some of the behind the scenes stuff. They're like, oh yeah, no, they knew that it was like a thing that they did specifically as a joke, like just a racist joke. But I'm like, I don't get that at all. And had I not read this, I would not have known that. So there was one thing that I missed while he's fighting the guy with the suppressed pistol, which is completely silent and no one can hear anything. It cuts to an old woman. He has the guy's arm up and a shot is fired. It cuts to an old woman watching TV with a parakeet. Yeah, a little parakeet in a cage, and the parakeet explodes. So apparently they shot the parakeet.
Very Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. Actually, it amused me specifically because of the Dumb and Dumber thing. I was like, she'll just duct tape it back together; it'll be fine. Yep. But yeah, so they go to Chinatown, and as they're for the establishing shots or whatever for Chinatown. I don't know if you guys caught this, but they show some pigeons, right? And then they show these women walk by, and they show a close up on their butts, and they're wearing like really tight jeans with the whale tail coming up, yeah. And then it cuts back to one of the pigeons and zooms in and does like an X-ray thing, and his heart rate picks up. Okay, I fucking saw that, but I didn't even put two and two together with the thongs and like I was like, what the is going on with this pigeon? Is it like just a recurring? Got to raise the heart rate. Apparently, it's a pigeon that's really into bestiality, dude. I don't.
Well, they make their own milk,
What do they call it?
Crop milk.
Is that what it was? I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. apparently that pigeon's into human females and likes thongs.
Yeah. So they're in Chinatown.
Yeah. They go in and eat. And like, why, if you had to keep moving or you would die,
Yeah.
would you be like, you know what? Let's go have a nice sit down lunch.
No. But if you're trying to convince your girlfriend who's kind of dumb as that everything is good to go, and you're trying to keep her safe without letting her in on everything, you would definitely go to a coffee shop.
Well, at least a coffee
cafe.
shop. At least a coffee shop has coffee.
A cafe, yeah.
Yeah, so we find out, he tells her all about how he's a hitman. We see a flashback where he didn't actually kill Don Kim. He walked up and was about to shoot him.
Yeah.
With a suppressed 5.7.
Yeah, someone else killed him.
No, someone else didn't kill him. He decides to let him go, but he makes him promise to lay low for 48 hours.
Oh, that's right.
So he can clear town.
He didn't clear town.
Yeah. So his girlfriend freaks out, and she's like, if you were going to break up with me, why don't you just break up with me and not lie?
Yeah.
So he follows her out, and he's trying to convince her otherwise, and then he just decides, you know what?
Let's this out.
Yeah, it's just time to do the nasty right here.
Yeah.
So
in the street of Chinatown, the
Yeah.
very populated street of Chinatown.
Of Koreatown.
Yeah, of Koreatown.
So he grabs her and says something about, like, let's do it. And she's like, no. And starts to walk away. And he, like, chases after her and grabs her again and is like, no, let's do it. She's like, no. So he rips her dress and one of her falls out.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. And he tackles her and, like,
Stunt, by the way, it wasn't hers.
this, that's good knowledge to have.
Yeah, because like in the rest of the movie, you never see it again. It never makes an appearance.
Right.
But it was a close up of the.
And they don't
obvious.
show her face at all in the shot. It's just
Exactly.
neck.
So stunt.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't study the shot of the that much. This for me was the most uncomfortable scene, like the most up scene, because essentially what happens is he rapes her, except like a little ways in, she decides she's into it.
Yeah, no, she's like, all right, yeah, we're doing this. We're bringing it out.
Yeah, so it's very much just like
After like 62 no's before.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
and him literally like physically wrestling her to the ground and getting on top of her.
Yeah.
And forcing himself upon her. So like, I guess, yeah, that really put me off.
It did. And so I will also say,
Yeah, I really got it.
whoa.
No, didn't get me.
Put off. Yeah, no,
It put me off. Yeah.
So apparently, like all the reaction shots that they had in there were basically real reactions from people that were not extras on the movie, that were just kind of walking around the filming and everything.
Really?
They filmed all the faces and stuff, and they were real reactions of non-actors.
Wow.
And they
Yeah.
were okay with some dude raping a chick in the middle of the street.
Well, I mean, clearly it was a film production and stuff, but there was people kind of just milling about on the outside, and those were some of the reactions to what was going on in the scene.
Wow.
Right? Dude, I was like,
Yeah, I'd be like, eh. But,
so if a rapist has a crew with the cameras, they can just basically go around and
Yeah,
be like, no,
apparently.
we're filming. It's cool.
Hollywood.
So there's like 100 Asian people that gather around them and watch. Like a bus pulls up with a bunch of girls in it that are also Asian, and they all are like cheering out the window and stuff. And it was kind of awkward.
Yeah, then he gets a phone call, and he's it out.
Yeah,
And she's way into it. They're doing like doggy style up against a railing or something.
It's a newspaper dispenser
yeah.
thing. What do you call those?
So he gets a phone call, and it is vote for Pedro again. And he's
Yeah.
like, I got Verona. And he's like, what? And he's like, I got Verona. And then they cut to him like clearly beat up and under duress.
In Fair Verona, where our story begins.
Yeah. And then, yes. And he's, so he's like, okay, where are you at? And he's like, this address. And he says it out loud. And then he's like, okay, I got to go. Pulls up his pants. And,
and leaves. And,
This girl is really upset about it, by the way.
she's so
unhappy.
mad. She is so fucking mad. She's like, oh, you're going to, okay, I'm not even going to say that, but
yeah, so it cuts to Pedro, all beat up, and then he gets like a plastic bag taped over his head and hanged, because just suffocating him isn't enough.
yeah, you got to kill twice.
Yeah, but they hang him while he's still taped to the chair, which just seems like extra work,
It really is. It's
Like,
so
because
much.
the chair is heavy. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't like a folding chair or anything. It looked like
it was like
wooden
one of
office
those.
chair.
Yeah, it was like one of those old office chairs that are really heavy duty. So that just seems like extra work. It seems unnecessary, you know?
Did you guys know that they actually wrote this? It came out in 2006, but they wrote it in 2003, and they wanted Johnny Knoxville to play the lead character, Chef Chilios. Wouldn't that be f***ing awesome?
That would be a totally different movie.
Dude, it would.
That would change everything.
Because he's hilarious.
He is hilarious, and he's not believable as a tough guy at all.
No.
So it would be so much. Yeah, it would be so much. Oh my God, the scene of him running in the nightgown with the.
Dude, I think it would be a way. So I like Jason Statham, but Johnny Knoxville, like I hate Jackass. Like I don't watch that at all.
Can
but
we get Johnny Knoxville just to film that scene?
The Ringer, like what? When the did we get ice cream? I love that movie so much.
I just want to see Johnny Knoxville film that one scene.
Dude, I feel like he has filmed that scene in every other movie he's ever been in. And then when Johnny Knoxville couldn't do it, they were like, you know who'd be great in this? The national treasure, Nicolas Cage. And he couldn't do it because of scheduling, and that's when it went to Statham.
What could have ben?
Dude, right?
Okay, if it was Nick Cage, it would have been terrifying.
Yeah, can you
It would have
imagine?
been, like a modern horror masterpiece.
Now I kind of want to see this movie with Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah.
I want to see both of those. I want to see Crank. I want to see Crank with Johnny Knoxville, with Nicolas Cage, but also with like Kevin Hart.
Dolph Lundgren.
So here's what. Have you guys seen the remake of RoboCop, where like each scene is done by a different crew? It's like different directors and stuff. So there's a remake. I think they're all from Detroit or something. Anyway, it would be really awesome to see a remake of Crank, but it's like that. Like each scene is done by a different director with a different tone and a different actor.
Yeah.
So you could get like the taste of Johnny Knoxville, the Nick Cage, the Kevin Hart.
Right. I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm not going to watch all those, but I totally understand what you're saying. I would like to see the whole movie filmed basically the same as it was, with a little bit of different writing based on the actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, where were we?
Let's see. They kill Pedro.
They kill Pedro.
So you can vote for him, but you'd kind of be throwing your vote away at this point.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And so they're like kind of talking back and forth, and the dude's like, "Yeah, man, you're f***ing up. You're like all over the news, and you're making unapproved hits, and you're making a scene, and like what the f*** I say?" And then the elevator dings.
Yeah. Oh, one quick thing. Like the scene change for a lot of the transitions when it goes to a new location, it shows like a satellite image and the camera will zoom out and then move over and zoom in. At this one, it starts all the way out from the Earth. And as it zooms in, it legitimately has the Google Earth logo in the corner.
All of those zooms were filmed using Google Earth.
Yeah.
And yeah, clearly you could see the logo.
But that one, like they didn't even crop the logo out or anything. Like that was loud.
I was trying to do a elevator ding, but that didn't work.
Oh yeah, the elevator dings. And Sean, who could be in the elevator?
It is the Vapid girlfriend.
She's just the worst.
And she's like, because she heard him say it when she was being violated, or I don't know at that point who was doing the violating, but anyway, so Eve sees it, and then suddenly Chilios, Jason Statham, sees her. And he decides this is the time on Sprockets when we dance. So he kills everybody. He's just shooting people as he's running towards the elevator. And there's lots of guns in the warehouse scene.
Yeah. So my first question is, where did he get the car? Because he has a car K9.
Yeah. That just randomly showed up after he lost the Springfield, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he left the Springfield behind, I assume, because it jammed. Then he emptied the Desert Eagle and left it. He got the Beretta from the cop, but then he like threw it off screen so the cop would chase it. And then he shows up here and he has the car.
Yeah, the car K9, which I don't know, interesting choice.
Yeah.
I mean, car does pay for a lot of placement and stuff. We've seen it in other movies as well, but yeah. So that's he uses it to point it at the dude's face that he throws off the roof.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't make some joke about it being a Chinese gun, because apparently calling Korean things Chinese is funny.
Yeah. So he's shooting. The K9 locks back. It's empty. He throws it away and then dives into the elevator with his girlfriend and shoots up as they're going down. And then they get to the bottom. And then what?
Oh, as he's jumping in, he yells, "Ow, my ass." and he gets
because he gets shot.
Something jumps up and bites him in the buttock,
and she starts to believe him at this point.
Yeah, although the gunshot wound to the butt cheek, literally not an issue for the rest of the movie.
No, and never is mentioned again or alluded to.
He was like, "Oh, you know what? It was just a paintball."
Yeah, I know. Let's see. Where do we go from there?
He gets a hold of a P226.
Yes.
Shoots some guys with that. Then he swaps the 226 out for a Glock 17.
Yep. It's a good choice.
They hop into his girlfriend's convertible yellow Rabbit.
Yeah.
Which is the vehicle that I would want if I was running away from gangsters. And there's a mediocre chase scene.
Really not good at all.
Yeah, they're getting shot at, and she's like, he explains, I have a note here, has to explain death to girlfriend. She says something about like, you shot those guys, and he was like, yeah, and he was like, but what happens to them, or something like that. And he's like, they're dead.
Yeah.
I'm questioning her mental capacity at this point.
No, she's dumb as like the whole time we've been saying she's dumb AF.
She decides that she's going to go ahead and because having sex out in the street got his heart rate up. So maybe if she while he's getting shot at and chased, it'll work. And she ends up stopping early, which makes him very angry. So he stops the car and shoots all of the people pursuing them.
Right. So here's
to be fair, that's probably how I'd feel.
No, I support that 100%. This is with the Glock 17. They get out of the car. He walks up to it, and he shoots in a very specific cadence, which actually made me go do a little bit of research, and I actually found it pretty quickly. So he shoots them in the cadence of 1-2, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 4, which apparently is an English football chant.
Oh.
And this is another English reference. So he shoots them to the English football chant rhythm. But also when he's looking for epinephrine, he's like, it starts with an E, and she's like, England. So that was another England. And Jason Statham is an English actor.
He's French. Oh.
No, he's
English. That's what I meant.
Yeah, he's English.
Wait, what about, what's his name? Jean Reno?
Jean Reno?
Jean Reno?
He's French.
Yeah, him in this movie.
That's another freak. That's like a Nick Cage style.
There's only one Jean Reno movie.
And it is The Professional.
Yes. No, it's Leon.
Oh.
But what about Ronin? That's a good one, too.
I don't know. All right, where were we?
Leon is The Professional.
Right.
Right, no, we're aware. But also Ronin. Ronin is good, too.
All right, where were we?
He goes to the doctor's house.
Oh, the doctor's house.
And this is the part where the doctor's like, well, I only have temporary options. Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to put this into you. And Jason Statham's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. And he's like, yeah, there's methamphetamines in here just to even you out.
Yeah. I felt like there was some false hope there because throughout the movie, he's like, you know, I'm on a plane. I'm going to be there as soon as I can. I'll help you out. And then he gets there and he's like, yeah, no, you're.
Yeah. He makes a really expensive phone call on the plane, talks about his heart on. And he's like, yeah, you're going to die. We can drag it out for a couple days, or I can just let you go peacefully.
Yeah. So Jason Statham's like, how about like, can you give me another hour? And good old Dwight is like, sure. Yeah, I can give you another hour. And Jason's like, cool. So instead of, being like, I'm going to spend this last hour on Earth with this person that I apparently care about deeply because he wanted to run away with her. Mm-hmm. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go kill a bunch more people.
He's like, if I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, so he decides that he's going to go kill people. Then what?
So he goes back to the rooftop where he was towards the beginning of the movie. He comes off the elevator. They immediately take his XD away from him. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he ever actually fires an XD in the movie, does he?
I thought he did. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't remember him doing that at all. Ever.
Like, it seems to be his preferred weapon, but like it
he
jams.
Tries to, but,
it jams the time he tries to, and then it gets taken away from him later.
Yeah.
So he gives it up. Apparently, he has a insulin pump rigged up with epinephrine that they yank out of him, which seems like it would be unpleasant.
It seems awful, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, actually, because Tanner has an insulin pump, and it's not. Yeah, it's just a little tube that goes inside you. It wasn't like there's like a whole system where it's hooked up inside of you. It's it'd be fine.
So there's not like
it'd be unpleasant, like pulling duct tape off your skin. But other than that,
so they don't put like a port in or whatever.
No, because you have to constantly move it around, because otherwise you'll get like scar tissue buildup inside of you.
He does shoot the XD. I just found there's actually a scene, and you can clearly see that it's a blank casing coming out of it.
Wait, but
crimped at the tip, and it's on it's on this scene that we're talking
he's
about
wearing
right now.
the suit.
The rooftop scene that we're talking about right this second.
I think he gets it back.
Okay.
So yeah, he came here under the pretense that he was going to get antidote. I forgot about this. So this is why he doesn't spend the hour with his girlfriend. But anyway, he comes thinking foolishly that he's going to get an antidote, and really they just have more of the exact same drug that they're going to shoot him up with, which at this point, this guy has made it for like 2.5 hours when they told him that he could only make it for an hour. So do you really want to trust the same drug that you used to try and kill him the first time?
But wait! It's got to be longer than that, because the newspaper or the TV reporter said the whole thing started at 9 a.m. in the morning. It's clearly like way in the afternoon.
It's 11 when he but daylight savings time when he gets to his girlfriend's house, so it might be 10.
Oh wow, that would be interesting.
And then he says something about like an hour and a half, and then the doctor gives him another hour.
Is this the elevator ride to the roof with the Chinese guy in the elevator?
Oh yeah.
What the?
Yeah.
Like he starts hallucinating and thinking this Chinese dude is him, and then the Chinese guy turns to him. He's like, "What the did you say to me?"
Yeah. He his mother speaks to him through the Chinese man.
It was really weird.
Yeah, the whole thing was odd.
Irrelevant, just odd. Okay, so he's on the roof, and people are just, and then goes cray cray.
Yeah, and then Don Kim shows up just in the nick of time with a bunch of dudes armed with machine guns,
and there's a standoff.
Yep, and they do a bunch of shooting, and the SWAT team shows up,
and the SWAT team all has M4A1s.
Yeah, and all of Don Kim's guys have machine guns. And have you guys noticed how common that is in movies?
Yes.
Like, it'll be like Italian mafia guys, and they all have like pistols or maybe some pistol grip shotguns or something. And then like the Chinese show up, and they all have like full auto Glocks.
They had a Heckler and Koch
shit.
UMP-45. They had an HNK MP5A3. It's the Koch brothers. KOCH.
That's not pronounced like that though.
MP5A4. I don't give a how it's pronounced. I don't care about HK. IMI Uzi, a mini Uzi. They also have like one of the shotguns.
Yeah,
one of the very early precursors. The Serbu Super Shorty.
The SSS, not to be confused with the SSB.
Yeah, exactly. With the vertical grip way out in the front, like that just seems dangerous to me. So yeah, lots of machine guns,
lots of cool stuff.
Yep.
That does seem to be like a thing though. Like pay attention when you're watching gangster movies from now on. The Chinese always show up with machine guns.
Yeah. Oh, and then one of the SWAT guys also had that Mossberg M500 bullpup shotgun.
Oh, I didn't even.
I actually made a note, and you can barely see it because I watched the movie and then I looked through the IMFDB, and then I went back to find the scene, and you see it just like very, very, very briefly as he's walking by. But that's actually kind of interesting. I'm sure Savage would love it. I would hate it.
Yeah,
it's like
they were interesting.
It's got a briefcase handle on the top and
a grip safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have a big shootout on the roof. What was the primary bad guy's name?
Carlito.
Carlito runs his way up to the helicopter that's perched up above them, and the dude that injected Jason Statham earlier runs up there and says something about like who's the now, and then shoots him and pulls him out of the helicopter. But Jason Statham gets there just in time to start fighting him as the helicopter takes off. And then all of a sudden, the helicopter is at like 30,000 feet.
Well, all right. There's actually a lot of data on this. So the max ceiling for that helicopter is like 5,000 feet.
I love that someone did this.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly where that is. I didn't know that it was going to actually come up, but I did read it.
Oh, it had to come up.
So apparently it was at like 1,000 feet, and then the max ceiling for that was like 5,000 feet. But then if you calculate, so they fight. Statham wins, but he falls out of the helicopter.
Yeah, he ends up grabbing the bad guy and yanking him out of the helicopter, throwing them both into the air.
So then it's about 90 seconds as he's falling from the helicopter, and it's just a very serene of him falling back first towards the ground at a very high velocity, and he decides that he wants to call his girlfriend and leave her a voicemail, and it's a very sweet voicemail.
Mm-hmm. But he gets through that 16-minute message at the beginning.
Which is how they calculated it. So I was like between 3,500 and like 4,000 feet that the helicopter was, with a max ceiling of 5,000. So completely realistic. And if they calculated that for him to make that telephone call, it would take he would have to be at that elevation when he came out of the helicopter. So
this also made me chortle. He falls on the ground like very slowly, gets closer, and then it gets closer faster and faster and faster. And then it cuts to a shot of a car on the street, and he bounces off of the roof and lands right in front of the camera.
Yep. And
we hear his heartbeat, and then the camera or the screen goes black and the credits roll. But he bounces off of the roof, right? There's a very famous photograph of a woman who jumped off of, I believe it was the Empire State Building. And she landed on the roof of this car, and it crumpled the roof of the car and essentially like cradles her. And it's a pretty well known, pretty famous photo because it's so odd. Like if you didn't know, you almost wouldn't realize that she was dead. Like it's a very peaceful photo, and like the way she's posed and everything. But here's the thing: when they went to remove her body, apparently it was basically goo.
Interesting.
Yeah, because everything was broken. Organs. Yeah.
A lot of times, too, with car accidents, I think we were talking about this. With car accidents, when people get hit like side impact, what happens is you actually have an aortic dissection, and it just your heart pulls away from its the aorta, and you actually just bleed out internally. But your body looks fine. It doesn't look like there's any injuries to you, but you're dead because the impact pushing your body at such a rapid rate and into a certain direction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's falling's not a fun thing, but yeah, the fact that he like bounces, just kind of.
So I'll also say
he's rubber and there was no glue, so he just bounces everything, doesn't stick to shoes.
Yeah. Whoa. So he actually he did all of his own stunts, including the helicopter fight and everything.
So he actually fell out of that helicopter and bounced off the roof of the car?
No,
from like a million feet.
No, I don't want to play this game. No.
Yeah, what an interesting movie. And you know what? They made a sequel.
Oh, here it is. It seems that having fallen from a helicopter, he would not have had enough time to do all the things he's done. That means the helicopter's altitude was 3,100 to 4,800 meters. This is well inside the service ceiling of the Eurocopter AS-350, which is 5,100 meters. So sorry, I was saying feet, but it was 3,100 to 4,800 meters. And theoretically, there was enough time during the fall to do those things. So 60 to 90 seconds of total falling time.
Wow, really?
That would suck the whole way. So another little fact that I thought was incredibly interesting was, so at the end of the movie, he's falling out of the helicopter, very serene, calling his girlfriend, talking about whatever. And it turns out that that's just what he wanted her to hear, what he was imagining to himself that he was saying to her. Because in Crank 2 High Voltage, he asks her, "Didn't you get my message?" And then it immediately cuts to the answering machine with just nothing but noise. Just nothing but wind noise.
Okay, I love that they followed that up because it's a very, very quiet.
Yeah, with just an audible voice muffled in the distance.
You know what's weird is as he's falling out of the helicopter and he snaps that guy's neck, the guy slows down.
Yeah, he falls away, but
everything falls at the same speed. He would be stuck falling next to the dead guy.
Air drag. I mean, you could.
They're both like
okay,
this.
Yeah, but he's on his back flat, like Jesus falling out of the sky.
Maybe he was thinner. I don't know. I mean, you know what the world record for falling without a parachute and surviving is?
33,000 feet.
Yes.
I talk about that with my kids all the time.
It was an airplane, right?
Flight stewardess.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I meant.
It was a Serbian stewardess on an airplane.
Dude, that I would.
So
yeah,
the body count for this movie
Yeah, the body count.
Chev kills 13 people.
Yep.
It says 12 real, 1 imagined. What was the imagined kill?
Was it the Chinese dude in the elevator?
No, in the beginning, it looks like he killed Kim. But he really doesn't.
Okay, maybe.
Because you think because they lead you to believe that he actually killed Kim, and that's why they're all trying to get revenge on him.
Yeah.
Okay. Verona, who was the dude that injected him, killed 2 people.
He killed the main bad guy and maybe one of the Asian killers.
Yeah.
In the entire movie, 29 people die. But they also included Jason Statham himself and
at the very end.
1 bird.
1 dead bird.
Yep.
And not the pigeon that saw the whale tail and almost had a heart attack, but actually the other bird.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about guns that were in this real quick.
Yeah.
Not tons of diversity, and a lot of the standard players. We saw the Glocks, we saw the P226, we saw the Desert Eagles, and we saw machine guns from the Chinese henchmen, and we saw M4A1s from the police, also a weird bullpup shotgun, which probably doesn't seem like it would be heavy duty. There's also a couple of AKs. But what are your favorite firearms from the movie? And I'll start. Mine was actually an ISS flash paper Beretta. I saw this in the notes and I was like, what the hell is that? But Aaron and I have actually been to this place, ISS, Independent Studio Services, and the flash paper was just, it would create like a flash out of it, and I can't find it. Where is it?
Yeah, they basically use them as a stand-in when they're shooting at close range with actors because it's, a blank isn't safe.
Yeah, and then I actually brought up an article about it. Where is it? Yeah, so it's called a non-gun flash paper from ISS. Zinc replica firearms based on the real deal, but cheaper and easier to break, while these guns on the page are called flash paper or flash bulb guns. Interestingly enough, if people are allergic to zinc, they will have an allergic reaction to these guns.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting, and especially interesting that they call it straight out and actually have a couple really good pictures of it.
Yeah, they do. And looking at it, like, it's very similar. Like, quickly shown on the screen, you wouldn't think anything, but like looking at the photos, it's very clearly funky.
Yeah, it's weird. Aaron, what was your favorite?
That sewing machine that guy somehow couldn't turn off.
Yeah, he shoves the guy's hand in the sewing machine, and it's got like a 1 gauge needle in it.
That's not a firearm.
And it wouldn't stop. Like normally with a sewing machine, you actually have to like push a button to make it go. But apparently these just run automatically, or the seamstress was just being a complete and just wouldn't stop.
She just pushes harder.
That would be interesting. So the word that you just used, actually, it's kind of interesting. That word is actually not going to be spoken in this episode or in the movie, but it was written in the script, and they actually put it on his forehead. It was a last minute inclusion by the editor.
Yes. Well, it wasn't, but it was.
So Nick, did you have a favorite gun?
I would say the Smith & Wesson 500. Only because the guy drops it and it blows his fingers off.
Yes, like 4 of them, and then immediately they show in the next scene he's got all of his fingers, which is kind of weird. But dude, yeah,
he didn't pick him up. You guys saw that, right?
Did he?
Yeah, he like grabbed him and he grabbed all of his fingers, so he must have just put him back on.
I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I probably would try to if I had time.
So 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. It's a pretty gun. It clearly even says you can see in the scene the 500 on it.
Yeah, they're absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. This one is the 4-inch barrel, which is essentially a snub nose, not a gun this big.
Yeah, I was going to pick this one until I saw the flash paper, and just because we had been there, I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Jeremy, any favorite guns in this one?
I don't remember. I didn't watch it lately.
Yeah, it's been a bit. My guess would be the XD9 because
I mean, I do have one. I like it.
You like XDs?
I do.
Yeah, it's very good. Jeremy, do you like this movie?
It's a fun one to turn your brain off to.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of freaking weird, and I'm not gonna lie. I've actually seen it a couple times.
Also, Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah, Dwight Yoakam. I've seen Crank High Voltage, which I believe is the second one. I don't love this movie, but again, I have watched it multiple times, and I do enjoy it. Aaron?
I absolutely, positively hated this movie. I watched it begrudgingly, and every minute of it, I was not interested in it one bit. Like, the main character's and I wish he would die. All the villains.
You get your wish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, I don't, because they make Crank 2.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. P.S. He doesn't die.
Yeah.
Right. And like all the villains are over the top bad people. I mean, it's not like normal bad guys. They're like obviously stereotypical evil people. It's just every bit of this movie just was like, I hate this movie.
Yeah. Nick?
I'm kind of with Aaron. Like, I wouldn't say that I hate the movie. I had never seen it before. I don't ever have any intention of watching it again. I really didn't care for it. Like I said earlier, I thought a lot of the action, it was like they set up and they had the elements, like they had the several chase scenes and the shootouts and stuff. But it all just sort of like ended really quickly. You'd be like, all right, chase scene. And then they'd like drive down the street a little ways and you'd be, oh, the chase scene's over. And you'd be like, yeah, fight scene in the bathroom at the bar at the beginning. And then they like spill out into the street and he gets in the car and drives away and you're like, oh, okay, I guess the fight scene's over.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a lot of this movie gave me action balls.
It did. Yeah, I agree. So vote for Pedro's name is Kalo, which is apparently a Cantonese slang for homosexual.
Wow. Jeez.
But that's Chinese, not Korean, so I don't know.
But God,
He's Hispanic.
It's so weird. The whole thing is just weird.
Yeah.
I think that was all the stuff that I had set aside. Yeah, it's not a great movie. No. I think I've watched it multiple times just because it was a movie that I was like, I could put this on because I don't want to pay any attention to it and just fall asleep.
Comparing this to Shoot 'Em Up, which is also like unintentionally ridiculous, over the top action movie.
Yeah.
Shoot 'Em Up is so much better.
Well, you can actually, like in Shoot 'Em Up, you like the lead character. He's a jerk, but at least he's got a heart of gold. This one, there's nothing that I can see redeeming any qualities within the main character.
Well, when Shoot 'Em Up sets up for a chase scene or a shootout or a fight or whatever, it actually pays off.
Yes.
True.
This felt like watching Jason Statham have urgent phone calls with like 30 seconds of fighting or chasing or whatever in the middle.
And rape.
And rape.
He's a murderer. He's a rapist. He hurt innocent bystanders and just drove off. Starts fights for no reasons.
The one redeeming thing is that he seems to be just trying to keep the cops' heads down in the hospital instead of actually just shooting them.
What was in that? He shot a bag, like a medical bag. It wasn't saline in the bag. I almost want to say it was urine.
Yeah, it was. It looked like it was supposed to be urine, but it was an IV bag on a pole.
Yeah, so like, was it reverse gravity fed urine being sucked out of somebody? Because he shot it and it landed on
catheter.
the cops.
I don't even know, man.
I don't know, but as someone who's had to have a lot of drug infusions that were really, really insanely expensive, I'd be really pissed off if somebody put a hole in one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is
God,
true.
I still have to pay for that, man.
I know.
Right.
So I also wondered if this was like Jason Statham's like first movie or something, because I was like, it's just like low budget. No, it was his 18th movie. He did like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch. The Transporter 1 and 2, The Italian Job, Cellular, Collateral.
You ever heard Michael Madsden? His whole Michael Madsden's in a lot of movies.
Yeah,
but that has said he's like, I get paid no matter what the. This dude was in Reservoir Dogs, and he's like, I don't give pay me.
Yeah.
I feel that way about Robert De Niro these days. Like, he'll be in anything.
Well, yeah.
I see him in some movies. I'm like, oh,
you know
really?
who I miss? You know who I miss from acting?
Oh, I was gonna say your dad.
Oh well, besides that, Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
Is he dead?
He still does.
No, he's not dead, but he like retired from acting.
Did he?
Yeah, his last. I want to say. I forget what movie was his last one, and then he had like a bit part in Crazy Heart at the end. And I don't really.
Was he in the retired or the old Lions movie? That was like
Secondhand Lions.
Secondhand Lions. That was a great movie.
Which is
really good. Yeah,
but that was a long time ago. That wasn't.
Yeah.
Or he did some like was it not the farmer astronaut? That wasn't him.
No, that was Billy Bob Thornton.
He's filming a movie right now called 12 Mighty Orphans.
I was gonna say I thought I just saw something on Netflix.
I could have sworn there was a thing like. He had retired from acting. Maybe he came out, maybe he stopped or what. But I could have sworn I heard a thing years ago, like he retired from acting, or he's just not doing like.
Yeah, so he did did 3 movies in 2012, 1 in 13, 1 in 14, 1 in 15, 1 in 16, 1 in 18, and now he's filming one right now.
Okay.
Let's see. What else do we have to cover on this movie? We talked about guns. We talked about the plot. We talked about what we thought of it.
Firearms accuracy.
Firearms accuracy.
0?
Yeah, not a lot. And there wasn't a whole lot of, like I said, all the shootouts were very brief, it seemed like. And the way that they were filmed, you didn't see that much.
I've about one-handed shooting in movies a lot previously. There's one-handed shooting in this movie as well, but it's a little bit more realistic in my opinion because he's like usually pushing his girlfriend out of the way while he's shooting with one hand. So I thought that was not bad.
What bothered me, I'm sorry.
No.
What bothered me was when he shot the brother, the one-handed brother, with the Desert Eagle in the head, and Pedro was on the exact opposing side, and all Pedro got on him was blood, and the bullet didn't go through him apparently.
Well, he shoots up into the guy's head, and Pedro's on the ground.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Because the guy's really tall
on him for that.
But yeah, an impressive amount of blood.
Yeah. Like I didn't even realize the head had that much blood, and no gray matter was on him.
I didn't think that this was terrible in the firearms accuracy. It just
also wasn't great.
Yeah. Speaking of gray matter, did you see the video of the guy that stuck his 12 gauge to the side of his head?
No, Jeremy.
Talk about it, but I do not wish to see it.
No.
Oh, I'll show it to you. I'll get the link.
You tell us about that every week.
We're not going to click it.
Yeah, every week you tell us about this. We don't want to see it.
No, I think I only said it Monday because I only saw it Monday.
Okay, that's fair. I just remember
it's fresh in my mind. well, not his.
Yeah, I was like, it's not his mind.
His mind was on his shoulder.
So J-Boy over in the comments says that Gene Hackman is the one that retired.
Okay.
After Enemy of the State?
After it.
Necessary Roughness.
Let's see. We already talked about whether we liked the movie or not.
Yep.
Do we really need to give it a letter grade? I mean,
nah.
Yeah.
Give it.
Yeah. Do you recommend this movie? Not really. No.
You know what? I do because I had to watch it. You need to watch it and see how horrible it is. It's like milk. Does this taste bad to you?
Yes. Do you smell popcorn? If I have to suffer, everyone has to suffer. All right. That is awesome. This is Gunflix and Chill with We Like Shooting. And if you have movie suggestions, I'm seeing some over here. Red Dawn, Lord of War, War Dogs, The Departed, I saw. Lethal Weapon 4.
Lord of War is a great movie.
It is.
Oh my God, you know how long it would take to do that movie, though, with all the guns?
One thing we are trying to do, though, is avoid the super obvious ones.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think next week we're going to do Deadpool.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited
because that's not a super obvious one.
Lots of guns, lots of fun, and one of my favorite movies, actually. So I'm pretty excited about that. Again, if you have suggestions for us, send them to automated@welikeshooting.com, or you can go to welikeshooting.com and just click on Contact Us. That will all go to the same place. We would love to hear from you. We've been getting some suggestions out there. We've built quite a list that we have sitting right here on the studio table. And that is Crank with Jason Statham from 2006. Do you guys have anything to add before we take off?
Night.
All right. Good night. We love you.
Next week will be better.
This was fine.
No, I mean like the movie. The movie next week will be better.
Yes.
So much breathing.
Did you think that show was worth $1? Help the cast by visiting lovewls.com.